The return up for Parlow. Leaves it off. Here's Mearham in the box. The shot. Goal. She's got the record.
Hey everyone, my name is Sabria Whitaker and I'm the founder of Grow the Game.
Erica Pioncastelli here, Tokyo 2021 Olympian.
This is Carly Jackson, professional goaltender for the Buffalo Beauts.
Hey everyone, this is Connor Moore, the social media manager of the Chicago Sky.
For the first time in franchise history, the Chicago Sky are WNBA champions.
You are now listening to
Women's Sports Matter.
Women's Sports Matter.
Hosted by Gianna Belcastro.
Arike Ogunbowale wins the national championship for Notre Dame.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Women's Sports Matter, a podcast that is your one-stop shop for all things women's sports. My name is Gianna Belcastro, and I am your host. First of all, happy Pride Month, everybody. Today's the first day of Pride, June 1st. What a month. First off, I would like to say that to celebrate Pride by not only having a beautiful new logo, which you can see on all of my socials, and also in the background for this Zoom recording, I will also be donating $15 each Tuesday of the month, which is the guest's choosing, and more on that later with today's guest, who will talk about that in a little bit. So let's get right into today's interview. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. First and foremost, thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here and talking with you today. My name is Kate Frese, and I am one of the team photographers for the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury here in lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
Is it really hot in Phoenix? That's my first question, because I've never been there. I just want to know, what's the weather like?
Long sigh. So, deep breath. I only came here in February. So mind you, I was living in Jersey City, right across from Manhattan, New York, before I came out here. I literally drove through a snowstorm on my way to the airport, stepped out to 80-degree weather. And that was in February, folks. So this is going to be my first summer here, and everyone's been just it's a dry heat, just get a sunshade, stay in the AC. People are giving me these little tips. I'm just I'm just going to accept the fact that I just might die this summer. I am not built for this. I am coming fresh from 12 years of working in ice hockey, and now I'm doing basketball in Arizona, and it's just a complete kind of climate shock for me. So I've been doing better. My body's adjusting, but 120 degrees is hot. So I'm not ready for that. I don't think it ever will be, but it is what it is.
Let's jump straight into your move from the East Coast, basically, to kind of the West Coast. I know you were taking photos for the Riveters, and I want to know, how did the process to move to Phoenix happen? Did you apply to something? Did someone reach out to you about the position? Tell me more about that.
So, backtrack. During the pandemic, when there wasn't a lot of media space for us to be in sports, I pretty much was out of a job for months, and I got to the point that I needed to get a job. So I saw that the NBA was hiring photo editors, so I took that job. Through that, I got to know literally every single team photographer with the NBA and WNBA, because we rotate around and get to work with them. So I got to know the Phoenix Suns photographers really well. I didn't know the position was open. I was offered the job by the head team photographer, Barry Gossage. And because the person that I took over for got a position with the San Antonio Spurs, so his position was open. And I was literally just at home in Jersey City, and Barry texted me. He was like, "Hey, can I call you real quick?" Which was weird to me. I normally just text with him or message him on social media. And I'm like, sure. And he offered me the job. And I'm just like, it was just a wave of emotions. I'm like, holy crap. Like I've been waiting for like this dream opportunity, but then just also like dreading having to leave like all the amazing teams that I worked, especially the Riveters, because I had a very special bond with them and I miss them like every day to this day. I think about those athletes. And yeah, he asked, he's like, I was like, when do you need me out there? He's like, as soon as possible. I'm like, okay. I was like, well, it's like a cross country move, my dude. This is not just like down 95 or something. And he's like, I can wait till the end of the season if I absolutely have to, but I'd prefer not to. I was like, okay, give me a month, because I had to get out of my lease. I had to coordinate everything to get all of my stuff from East Coast out here. I use like a pod, and that like, worked for me. And I also wanted to make sure that all my jobs, all the different people I was freelancing for, were taken care of with a replacement, or at least try to find someone. So I kind of like interviewed a few people. I wanted to make sure that, especially with the Riveters position, that the athletes were going to be taken care of and felt safe with whomever my replacement would be, because it's a very kind of sensitive atmosphere, working in women's sports. You got to make sure like the right people are going in and have the best intentions. So I interviewed a few people, tried them out, and they filled in for me for the rest of the season. And I wanted to make sure to give opportunity to either a woman, a person of color, someone in the LGBTQ plus community, not, someone that's just not another white dude in the industry. I wanted to make sure that like I was giving an opportunity to someone that probably would have been overlooked in another position. So yeah, I just set them up for like the last few home games to have a replacement. And I mean, I'm not sure what's going to happen, because a lot of changes have happened with the Riveters organization. I'm completely like kind of removed from it now. But yeah, then I just packed my bags and here I am in Phoenix, and it's a dream, it's crazy. Like pinch me,
Sounds like you're living the dream. I mean, that's just absolutely like, that's so cool. Could not imagine doing that. I mean, I'm making a move in the summer. I'm going to Nebraska, so I'm leaving for school for the first time, which is like weird.
Exciting.
A little. I'm moving to Lincoln, so
yeah.
Better than lake effect weather, I would like to say. I don't know what like winter is like on the East Coast, but it's a little brutal here.
Yeah, no, it's brutal. I'm not going to be used to being in shorts in the winter here. The nice thing is about Arizona though, is you can drive like 2.5 hours, like 2 hours up north, and you can have a little bit more seasons. But I'm such like a fall, summer, like spring, like I love all the seasons, and now I'm not going to have them. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll get used to it. Hopefully, we'll see.
I want to get rid of the winter season here, but
yeah.
I really want to move somewhere where it's like nice weather all the time, but I also don't want hurricanes. So the East Coast is like remove that whole side of the country.
Exactly.
So I want to know more how you got into photography. Was it like early childhood? Was it recently? Tell me more about that.
So my mother always had like a camera in her hand at like family functions, always growing up. I remember her taking a lot of pictures of me. She was a school teacher, always took pictures of her students. And she bought me a film camera when I was a teenager, because I had a lot of angst and a lot of anger, was going through a lot of things. And she was like, here, creative outlet. And I really loved taking pictures on that camera, but it was only ever like a hobby thing for me. And then I graduated high school and I was like, okay, I want to go back to school. Like after I took a year off, and I was like, what do I want to do? I want to do something that makes me happy. So I applied and got into an art school back home in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, PA College of Art and Design. And I got in, and I actually went in as a graphic design major. And with the intention of like, oh, I'll be able to get a job outside, with an art degree, I had to think about that when I graduate. And I took a photography elective course, was like, well, this will be fun, a fun elective. And the photo department chair, Christine Welsh at the time, she was teaching that class. So it was just an intro to like black and white photography. I took it and it clicked for me, literally and I'm cheesy, please excuse me. And we literally shot like our first assignment and she pulled me into her office and she's like, this like whole roll of film is excellent. This is really good for like, your first, like pretty much like first real time doing this, like an academic, she's like, institution. She's like, what do you want to do when you graduate college, like with photography? And I was like, I'm a graphic design major. And she's like, sit down. She's like, you're changing. Like, she's like, you have it. I can't teach people like this ability. Like I can only show them some things. She's like, you have a natural talent for it. She's like, switch your major now. Thank you, Christine Welch, because I graduated with a BFA in photography and got right into the industry. And it's just been crazy climbing ever since. So
I was like obsessed with photography when I was in middle school. Like,
nice.
I picked up a camera and I was like, this is amazing. And when I was a sophomore in high school, I told my mom, I was like, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to study photography. I'm going to go to Arizona State and then I'm going to work for Getty Images. That's what I wanted to do. And she goes, photography is a dying major. And I switched it because she's like, and she's gonna love this part because she listens to every episode. She hates when I mention things about her, of course, because this is a very professional show. And I was like bummed. I was like, I don't know what else I'm gonna do. How am I gonna have a career? This is the only thing I know how to do. And I've never been to Arizona. I don't think I've ever would have gone to Arizona State. And I'm not like, I never, like when she told me that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna just do it as a hobby, which is, I do it sometimes.
Yeah.
There's like these things right here that can be used as a camera. So most of my pictures are done from my phone. But I have a Canon. I forgot what brand it was. I don't know what kind it is, but I use it sometimes. I just took photos for my sister's Sweet 16 in March. They turned out pretty decently. I'm not like a skilled like editor for those. I love a lot of saturation. I'm sure that's always fun editing those. Is there any photo in particular that you've edited that is like your favorite of all time?
Oh, and this is when people ask me this question, I never know how to, because it's like trying to pick my favorite child, like, and it changes constantly because like, as I'm like, I constantly am creating like new favorite images. Like my favorite image from like 5 years ago, which was like a picture of Wayne Simmons when I was covering the Flyers. Like, I still love that picture. Don't get me wrong. It's still hanging in my apartment, but I'd have to say right now, so Mercury's opening night for their home season, they set up this red carpet and did these really cool intros of all the players like running out. And it was just one of these happy accident things where my radios weren't hitting my strobe. So my lights, my studio lights weren't going off in the arena, and it was really dark. And like, I was just like fumbling, trying to make sure that I can like adjust that as these players are still running down. I had to switch to available light, which was really dark and kind of grainy. And I was like still snapping the pictures as they were running down. And like, I finally got it kind of like to where I wanted it to be. And I'm just like, I knew in the back of my head, knowing the roster and they're now, I'm just like, shoot, like Diana's about to come out. Like, I need to like at least nail her picture. And I got her, her running out, and it was at least in focus. Like I completely botched the exposure because I just like was trying so fast to adjust on the fly because my lights weren't going off. And I hated it at first. And I was just like, let me see if I can save this in like Lightroom and just like work with like, it was just too dark for me. And then I ended up popping it into Lightroom, which is what I like to use to edit when I'm on the fly. And I got it to a point that I really liked it. And it's just pretty much just blackness surrounding her and her like running out. And I have it like in a color version and a black and white version. I really like the black and white version because I feel like it adds just a lot more emotion to the image. And I think all of us know that like, she's not going to, as much as we would like her to play forever, she's not going to be doing it forever. And it just kind of like, I don't like, we don't know if it's her last season, and I was just like, it just feels like a moment like that was just very kind of like emotional. Like she's running out again for her like first season intro. It could be the last one. We don't know. And right now, like that's probably my favorite.
Do you have those on Twitter or is that available to see anywhere?
I think it's on my Instagram.
On your Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think I'm going to clip this and put it on social. So I'll put that over when you're talking for a little bit. And then I'll tweet that out and tag you and all that and be like, yo, the before and after, look at this.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. You said it's on your Instagram? I'm going to pull it up.
It's on my Instagram right now. If you want to pull it up.
I will look right now and find it. Because I would love to see this.
It's honestly like not the best picture, not the most like technical, like it's back on May 7th.
Oh yeah, I found it.
It's a whole Diana Taurasi, like shout out to the GOAT.
Shout out to the GOAT.
Shout out to the GOAT.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's fantastic.
Yeah. I was glad that I at least got something that was salvageable. It wasn't like what I intended, but sometimes these like you can completely screw up and maybe even look better than your original intention. And sometimes that happens for me. And I'm like, hey, just work with what you got. And now it's like one of my favorite images this season.
Yeah, absolutely. So you brought up something that I've always like wondered about. So I work for the Chicago Wolves. And a lot of the times I see this thing flashing in like the top part. And I'm like, what the hell is that? What is this thing going? Can you explain this to me? Because I don't know what's going on. So
yeah. So you said at the Chicago Bulls?
The Chicago Wolves.
Oh, the Wolves.
Yeah.
So some photographers, like when we're allowed to, is we install, they're pretty much like big strobe studio lights that we put up in the rafters of buildings. And what we have, at least for us, is we have these big kind of like battery packs that kind of operate as like controlling the circuits and everything. So it runs from the light to the battery pack. And then we have wires that run the whole way down to event floor level. So, on court level. And we have these little plugs that we plug into, and then that runs up to both ends of the basket. And on the basket, we have our radios, and then so we have a receiver, and then we have the transceivers on our cameras. So it's a remote system. We're not like hardwired in for the most part. My boss does sometimes, but I'm all wireless. So whenever I hit my shutter, it's going from my transceiver receiver through all the wiring up to the catwalk, and then through that box, and then boom, setting off our strobe system, which we have them set up in every corner of the arena. So it's nice and really well lit. So that allows you to adjust your exposure, and it just becomes a better quality image because you can drop your shutter speed down, you drop the ISO down, and everything just looks like so much juicier, just like a better image. But the only thing is you're not on rapid fire, right? So you have literally one shot. I feel like I'm an Eminem song. Whereas one shot, and it goes off, and then you have to wait for it to recycle. So if you miss that shot, you got to wait 3 seconds to even take another picture. So say, hey, maybe you screw up, like going for like a shot, you screw that up, like you have to wait 3 seconds, and maybe you can get the celebration afterwards, or like, a moment of defeat. But like, it's challenging. It's my first time working with them. So I'm still learning a lot of things, but thankfully my boss is teaching me everything I need to know. So.
Thank you for walking me through the technical side of all of this, because I had no idea any of this was going on.
It's a lot. I didn't know that like I'd be adding like electrician to my resume, because I have to know how to like run this wiring system. I have to have a knowledge of how circuitry works, which thankfully I had an interest in high school and like tech and like shop class and everything. But yeah, it's a whole other beast once you switch to that side of things. It's crazy.
Well, the more you know.
Yeah.
That's like my thing. That's like my thing this season. I'm learning so much, and all I can think of is like the more you know, and that star going across.
You totally need to put that across.
Yeah, I'm gonna edit that. I use that. I send my family that all the time. I tell them something, and it's just like the more you know. And now that's my thing this year. That's my phrase, because it's always on like channel 5 for me. What is it? The IE, the educational information thing. Yeah. The more you know.
Ding.
So I want to talk to you more about working in the PHF. What is the atmosphere or the team atmosphere that you experienced with your time at the Metropolitan Riveters? What was that experience like for you? How did you get that job? And to end that question, what was your favorite photograph from that?
Oh, okay. So when I was pretty lucky that I didn't have to work my way up through the ranks of going through like college to minor league to like NHL. I just kind of like went right into NHL work. So I was working in the NHL for a few years, and oh my gosh, at least like 8 or 9 years at that point. And I just felt like I was also doing AHL, sometimes an ECHL game, but I felt like I wanted just like something kind of different. And I didn't want to go into college sports, because at the time before they made some changes with NCAA, it was just a pain in the butt for photographers to work in college. And I was like, okay, what can I do? And someone had told me that there's a women's hockey team that normally played up in Newark, New Jersey. I was living in Philly at the time, that normally plays in Newark, but they got moved last minute to what was it? Oh my gosh, what was that little Monmouth Junction or something, like some random town and like near Princeton, New Jersey. I was like, oh, that's like literally halfway. It's like a lot closer to me. And I was like, let me just reach out and see, like, look at the schedule, see how it compares to the Flyers schedule, and see if they need someone. And they're like, yeah, sure, come in. No problem. And it was just like easy like that. They were very happy that like someone with like my like experience and background wanted to come cover the women's game. So I started out like, shooting from the bench, did a media day, and it was like, it was just such a different experience for me than working in men's sports, because and it's kind of what I needed at the time, because I was dealing with a lot of harassment from many people in the NHL, be it like other photographers, fans. Like I was just really struggling. I needed something to make me happy, and that was it. I feel like whenever I'd walk into a PHF game or practice, just more respected just for walking like as a woman into that building. I felt a lot more seen. I felt more respected. And it was just such a beautiful experience for me, because the players were comfortable, most of them just pretty much right off the bat. And I think a lot of that contributes to me being a woman and not some like dude with a camera being like a weirdo. They just automatically felt comfortable. And a lot of them just like felt like, I was an extension of the team, and they mostly just treated me like a teammate. And it really created this very special bond that I had with a lot of them, where I could capture these really vulnerable moments. I could like be around them, be in the locker room, and they didn't feel uncomfortable, at least for like, I didn't hear anything. Like everyone was pretty much comfortable around me. So it made my job easier. They were more thankful than any guy has ever been. Like I had, even some players like Mallory Rushton, who's like my buddy. She would thank me after each and every game. Kate, thank you for being here. We appreciate you so much. I've never gotten that from any guy that any male athlete I've worked with up until now, because the guys are really great on the Suns, but it was just a once in a lifetime experience. And this is where I get emotional, and it was really hard to leave behind. Then that, but they were really understanding when I had to tell them. There was a very emotional video that I posted when I had to tell them when we were on a trip to Connecticut that I was leaving, but they were more happy and supportive. And I still keep in contact with a few of them because they're just their friends. They're like sisters to me. So it was the single most rewarding experience I've had in this career. And I don't think anything will ever touch that. It just truly was the best experience of my life. I hated leaving them, but I had to do this for myself. And it doesn't mean that I won't return to women's hockey someday. You know, this may not be permanent. You never know where my career could take me. When it comes to my favorite image of them, so I traveled with them to the Buffalo Believes Classic. My first season with them. I guess it would have been my first season with them. Maybe I can't keep track of anything.
Do you know what season that was of the PHL?
I want to say it was, would that have been 2019? No, it was before that, 2018. I can look it up, post and like send it to you.
Mm-hmm.
But it was up in Buffalo. It was like it's like a kind of like outdoor arena. It was really neat. And of course we were playing like the Buttes, right? And I took this picture. There's two of them I really like. I'm just going to tell you both. I'm not going to pick between the two. One of them was Madison Packer leading down everyone down this like hallway where you turn to go down to the rink. And it's just like, I had my fisheye on. So it was super wide and you just have like the walls, like boom, boom, boom. And then she's like right in the middle. And it's just like her back, like strides perfect. She's got like, her hair looks great. And then just like 14 Packer, you know, she's just like going to the ice and just ready to tear it up. Then there was another one that I took of her on the ice where is a side profile and the background happened to be pitch black because it was a night sky. And it's just a perfect profile of her. Her hair is like bleach blonde, I think. And just like, you know, up like that and just looks amazing. So it's probably between those two that are my favorites. And they just happen to both be a Packer because she's just so photogenic. So
who doesn't love photos of Madison Packer? Like,
oh, I miss her. I miss her all the time. And she's just such a wonderful human being, like off the ice and just a fun person to be around. Our personalities get along well. So I miss working with Pac every day.
I also didn't mean to make you cry. I know it's an emotional subject for you.
Oh, it's
but...
okay. It's okay. I accept emotions and like, you know, you have to kind of just go with the flow and let it out. Sometimes it's still a sore subject, obviously, because I miss them, but you know, I still keep in touch. So
that's awesome. That it honestly, like talking about your relationship with them, that's you don't really get to hear about that often. So that's really awesome. So to cheer you up, I'm going to tell you the joke that I mentioned.
Hit me with it.
So I was talking to one of the people on the Women's Sports Matter team today, and I was like, you know, I have a photographer coming on the show before, like the first time I've ever had a photographer on. So it's going to bring like a new angle to the podcast. That's my joke. It's not that funny.
Well, I really appreciate you giving me the extra exposure for having me
on. Not the photography jokes. See,
we're dorks. We're dorks. We know.
Yeah, and it took her a second, and then she started laughing, and I just told my mom. I was just chatting with her a little bit ago, and she's like, "That's a bad one, G. That's a bad one." And it's just like, no, it's hilarious. It's funny. I came up with it on the fly. I just like,
I love that. No, I'm here for it.
So it turns out you can be a podcast host and be funny.
Oh, absolutely. Not everyone can do it though. We know
Not
that.
everyone can do it. I should have a comedy hour on here.
I support this endeavor. Endorsed.
All my jokes will be about my sister. That's all. That's all.
I love a good sibling roast. I appreciate it.
My sister has been on my podcast twice. Yeah. And the first one was in the beginning of 2021. And the other one was recently. And my favorite part of the episode, which I talked about for last week's episode, is I made my sister pull up her Spotify of like most listened to artist of all time. Ooh. And she's like a huge Weeknd fan. So she was thinking that The Weeknd was going to be her number one. And her number one actually was the Glee cast. And she was so embarrassed that it was revealed to all my listeners on my podcast that it was the Glee cast. And I'm like, Bella, you literally blasted Take on Me by the Glee cast like a month ago. What do you mean? Like this, accept your fate, you know?
Spotify will call you out. That's why like I'm like dating right now. I'm single and I have like a Hinge profile. There's an option to like add your top Spotify artists. And I was just like, no one needs to see that. I was like, that's a conversation for later with like the wild stuff that's just going to pop up on that. And it's just embarrassing.
It can't be that bad, right?
Is there a way? I'm scared when we're done, I'm gonna have to pull it up and see like what my top are.
I mean, I don't even know. Now I gotta see because it changed. It really did. Mine used to be 21 Pilots because I went through my emo phase. I'm still in my emo phase.
Actually. I have never left my emo phase. I'm 34. I never left. Yeah, I need to know if it's a thing. It's probably an emo. It's probably like My Chemical Romance for me.
Oh my God.
Which I'm not embarrassed by at all. I'm a proud like emo kid, like not former, like still in it. You know, I'm a lifer.
I know what mine is. I'm not embarrassed of it. Mine is Wallows. That's my top. So for people that don't know listening to this show, the front man for Wallows is the dude that starred in 13 Reasons Why, Dylan Minnette. So he's the front man in that group. I'm actually going to see them next Friday. My sister and I are driving to Missouri. My mom's like, should I really let you go drive with your sister for 5.5 hours?
Absolutely.
And the answer is yes, because I already bought these tickets. So can't sell them.
Yeah.
So that is that. But I'm not embarrassed of my top Spotify artists of all time. So at least I can say that, Bella.
Yeah.
Hers is The Weeknd now. It did pass, but not in January when we talked. So oh well, Bella. I guess next question is finals prediction. Neither team.
I don't care.
You don't care?
It's still really like very shocking. And I'm fully like, I'm like pretending like the NBA doesn't exist right now. And I'm like,
absolutely. I get that.
I'm full in on the W right now on the Mercury.
The 2-7 Mercury that was beaten yesterday by the Chicago Sky. I'm just gonna say it because I'm here, but
yeah,
you can continue.
It's been rough. Just not a great time for Phoenix basketball, huh? I don't know. Probably. I mean, the Celtics. Like
Celtics.
I have to. They've really. I feel like they deserve it with how great they played and like how like Jason Tatum, like it's just absolutely insane. You know, I've watched like a few games and I'm like buddies with their team photographer, Brian Babineau. So I really like to see, I think I'm still an East Coast girl at heart. I hate Boston, but you know, I'm still salty about both my boys, my Sixers and my Suns being eliminated. So I'm just like, well, okay, I don't care anymore. It's all about the Mercury now. And now it's just like not the best start to the season, but there's still a little bit of time they could turn it around, but they got to just like haul some booty right now because they have a lot of things that they need to work out. And it's hard. And I know that like I've talked to a couple of them personally as I've been like, you know, getting to know them. They're more comfortable with me. I had one reach out and it's just, you know, just sad that they lost. And I'm hoping that they can turn it around and we can improve like morale and everyone can just kind of like start grinding it out and hopefully, you know, improve on the record because right now it's not looking great. But, you know, I'm happy to be there and happy to support, happy to be part of the W now. So, because that was a big thing when I was offered this job, and like, in order to uproot me from everything I love, and especially leaving my riveters, is that I need to continue working in women's sports. I don't want to, leave and not have that be part of my life anymore. I couldn't, like, emotionally, I couldn't do it. I need to have that. It's now a very important thing for my mental health. Like, as a photographer in this industry, I need to work with the W. So I'm happy to be here.
Must be fun to work in women's sports. I'm still waiting for that. I worked for 4 men's sports teams, and I did make an episode a while ago, probably was at the beginning of the year, because like you talked about before, like women in sports get harassed, at least in a lot of men's sports. You see it on both sides, absolutely. But it's just men's hockey is probably the most like.
It's toxic.
It is so toxic, and fans don't know how to behave, and it's just gross.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. But I still work for the team right now because they're in I think it's the semifinals of the AHL playoffs.
Nice.
So they've got a few games coming up that I will be working. I had to stop selling 50-50 because that's what I was doing, because people like kept being gross.
I'm sorry that you dealt with like some of the crap of like, working in sports. And I've had my fair share. I could write, like, people actually encouraged me to do it. It's just like, I could write a whole book on like some of the stuff that I've been through and, still go through to this day. I mean, even like being like in the top tier, I still every now and again have to deal with idiots. And it's just, it's hard, but I'm me personally, it's hard for me. I have like some pretty thick skin. And the way that I look at it is if my presence, like with my ball busting attitude and just like a very Philly attitude, like my presence can come in, I can take a brunt of the hits and make it easier for like the next person, like to follow me. Like I'll bear that shield any day, and I want to bring, my people with me and just like change up the game and have it be a different workroom, because it's ridiculous. And you wish that people could be better, but they're unfortunately not. And sometimes you just have to be kind to yourself. You need to know when you need to take a step back. You need to know when you need that mental health day, like, take a game off if you possibly can. I unfortunately can't, but it's just finding your ways to cope with those really hard moments and check in with yourself. And also really important to create allies within the field that you feel like you can reach out to, like, hey, like this happened to me. I need like, whomever you feel comfortable with. Like, for me, I need to have my women like around me to be able to talk to about stuff, because I was like, this is just like ridiculous, and then you can talk about it. And sometimes it's just like you feel immediately better, can go on with your day. And it's okay to not be okay and not go on with your day. I've had to leave games before because it was just so bad. And all you can do is just go in and be the best person that you can. And if people are going to be, the horrible ones, then at least that you're going in with the right attitude and just want to work and want to do the right thing. And we need people like that in this industry that care about supporting others that aren't like them, and making it a more diverse place, because it's just ridiculous sometimes.
It is. I like I said in the episode that I made a while ago, I'm very thankful that my boss for the Wolves is a woman, and having those conversations. She's like a few years older than me, which is like, I'm 19, and it's like she's like 23 or something, and she's got this like high profile like job, and I'm like, what? It's like seeing her is like excel at her job is amazing, and to be able to have conversations with her like about that stuff was really awesome for me. And having that kind of trust in your boss is awesome. So
and you need people like that in those like upper positions, because they're in the positions of power that can help change things. We need those big meetings that they have to be a lot more diverse and other people be represented, because everyone needs to have a say in things in order for stuff to progress and move forward,
So I want to shift gears of the conversation. I want to ask you about your shirt for people that are not watching today's episode on YouTube, which is the Women's Sports Matter podcast on YouTube, by the way. You should go subscribe. But what is on your shirt, and tell us more about that.
I figured, I was just like, I'm setting myself up for a hard conversation by wearing this shirt, but I am wearing a Phoenix Mercury jersey with the number 42, which is Brittany Griner, who I believe is on day 102, 103,
104. It's one of those.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
By the time this comes out, it's like next Tuesday. So
yeah, and hopefully there'll be a change of things. She is being wrongfully detained in Russia right now. She is a player for the Phoenix Mercury, and it's been rough. She's literally my favorite. I hate to pick favorites, but she's my favorite. Like, I'm talking as a fan, like right now, like work hats off, but she's my favorite player in the league. I love her style. I like her attitude. She's just aggressive and just like, she's like my type of basketball player. And I remember getting the job and being so excited. I was like, I get to work with the GOAT, and I get to work with like my favorite player in the league and a bunch of others that I absolutely love, like Shea Petty. And then they signed Tina Charles. Anyway, back to Brittany. So she's being detained in Russia right now, and it's rough. It's really hard, being a fan and then having to work in that environment where we all miss her and want her back. It's tough. It's really tough.
There's going to be links down below for there's a petition, there's pins on sale from Power Forward that get donated to, I forget what it is being donated to. If you can recall, do you remember? No, I don't remember either.
Yeah.
It's going to be down below. Just trust me that I put stuff in the description, because I always do.
Links. We'll let you do the work.
There's a bunch of links that'll be provided, but you can learn more about what's going on. It's not really, when this first happened, the podcast wasn't in season, and, people were like, don't talk about it because we don't want it to become like a thing, essentially. And then we're told, oh, we can't talk about it. So I'm just constantly trying to retweet stuff about it, reporters talking about it, anything that is talked about with this topic. I'm trying to promote that. So thank you for wearing the shirt today. So
that was my reason. Like I do represent the team in the league, and I can't speak too much on it. But it's just wild to me that it's not bigger headlines. It's not more prevalent especially in the sports world. I get it, oh, whatever, it's playoff season, but as I'm scrolling through my different sports apps, I have to Google her name in order to see something, in order to read something, instead of it being in my feed, for my Bleacher Report or whatever I'm scrolling through. And we want you home, Brittany. We support you. I know everyone else in the team feels that way. It's really nice to see other teams in the league supporting her as well. It was Dallas, the Wings came in when blew my mind the one day. They're stepping off the bus, and I see the first person wearing a Brittany Griner hoodie walking in. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then almost every single player was wearing one. I just was choking back tears, because I was just that. It speaks to just how amazing women's sports are and how supportive they are, how supportive the league is. And, we're just wishing and hoping for good news,
Like I said before, there's going to be links down below to learn more about this. And so going back to what I brought up in the beginning of today's episode, with it being Pride Month, I'm doing $15 donations with the podcast guest choice. Can you inform everyone what your choice was for today? And if you could explain a little bit more about what this organization does.
Yeah, sure. So I really wanted, when you asked me, I was just ooh, I know first and foremost, I want to make sure that it's a charity that is directly working towards supporting trans athletes, especially the trans youth. Because with everything, especially that's going on right now, they need all the support and help they can get, especially with all these scary bills being passed. So I chose Athlete Ally, who I have been following, for a while now, just being an avid supporter of the community and everything. So I was just, first and foremost, I love that you're doing that. It really means, a lot to me personally. And I do during Pride, I try to put some money out there, and I'm glad my name can be attached to that, because they are just about leveling the playing field, for those that are underrepresented, that have harder times in sports. And I love what they're doing. They have a lot of really great people backing them as well, and it's just definitely check them out, support them if you can, donate. But yeah, first and foremost, I wanted to pick a charity or someone that was helping the youth trans athletes.
And I appreciate you picking that one. That's a great charity to donate to. And if you want to match my $15 donation, I really hope you do. There is my post that is my pinned tweet, where you can reply down below with your receipt from Athlete Ally matching that $15.
Yes, I'm going to double it. I'm going to
for 30.
Thank you. And everyone else do it. All the cool kids are doing it. All the
cool kids. So. All the cool kids are doing it. So if we're doing it, you got to do it too.
Yep.
My goal for this, it was so, because companies change their logos for Pride, and it's I want to do something. Even as a member of the community, I don't want to feel fake and just put this logo up. I mean, I made this logo a few months ago. I already had it planned. I know some probably do it the night before. Right. This took a lot of work. I'm gonna tell you, finding this image and then putting the filter on it, because you still need to see the show's name. Right. I wanted to be as inclusive as possible, and in doing so, that's donating to charities that are helping queer people. And so that was my initiative for this month. I thought of this a few days ago, and I'm let's just do it. I am taking money out of my own pocket and basically putting money where my mouth is and getting that money out there to support queer people. So go donate, please. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now it's time for my favorite part of the episode, which is called the lightning round. And as my family likes to say, oh, Gianna, it's not the lightning round if people take too long to answer. Well, that's what I'm calling it anyway. They like to critique me. Again, this is not a professional show.
Screw it. We're having a good time here.
This is I tell people, this is fun time, laid back, because I'm super laid back. I don't think I could ever, because some people, they tell me that they plan their episodes, so they write the script out, and they'll sit there and they'll just hello and welcome to today's show. And I cannot read and talk. It's just, I can't do it. Everything is coming from this thing right here. It's called my noggin. And that's how I come up with content for this show. So first lightning round question. I think you mentioned this before, but what was your first camera?
A Nikon N90 and 60. It was an old film 35 millimeter camera from the 80s, because I'm old.
Oh, you're not that old.
Not that old.
Not that old.
You're still old. But yeah, I think I have it somewhere in my camera closet, but I still have it. So, and I actually still sometimes shoot games on it every now and again when I'm feeling a little spicy. So
what is your favorite lens to use?
I actually had to buy it for this job. Normally it's the staple 70 to 200. Now I'm team 24 to 120, because it's a really nice range for anything mid-court to the basket. And that's what I have to capture most of. So and it's an f4, I think. It's on the cheaper side. It's a great lens. I use it for almost everything now.
What was the first event that you officially took pictures for?
For sports, it was a MLS game. It was the Philadelphia Union I have my credentials still. I don't remember what the other team they played, but it was a Philadelphia Union game.
I've seen from your Instagram that you've taken some concert photos.
Yes.
What is that experience like? And what is your favorite memory from shooting at a concert?
So I actually started in music and then went to sports. Someone saw my music photography and then offered me an internship shooting pro sports because they thought I'd just be able to handle it. And I could. It's pretty much same thing. So I love music. I actually when I went to choose schools, I was either going to go for music producing, for like sound engineering, or art. And I chose art. So I love music. And I still to this day even think I might be a better concert photographer than a sports photographer, but I just work primarily in sports now. My favorite moment doing that. Well, this Sun season was really fun because it was like a lot of artists I grew up listening to, I got to capture. So that was cool. But recently, I think was one of the coolest moments for me where I got to photograph the New Kids on the Block tour that's going around right now, which I'm a little too young for them. I like some of their songs, but they also were touring with On Vogue and Salt and Peppa, and like those like women raised me pretty much. Like I love their music, and I just had the time of my life. Like I forgot I was working sometimes. I was having the time of my life shooting them. It meant a lot to me to add them to my portfolio. And then those artists shared my work on social media, and I just like the fan in me just like died. I had so much fun like singing along while working, and I got some images I'm really happy with, and that was probably my top moment. Yeah.
What's the biggest name you've ever taken pictures for?
I mean, maybe them. I've done a lot over the years. A lot of big names in the metal world I've done. Like I've done Slayer and Anthrax. I've done All American Rejects. A lot of big rap names, Saweetie, Lil Baby, Migos. I've done a whole like big range of just almost every genre I've shot like bigger acts in. So it's fun.
What is your advice for people that are looking to get into the photography scene?
Well, it won't be what your mom told you.
Just dying major.
So what I tell people actually is maybe even a good advice for you is that you don't necessarily have to go to school for it. I chose to, and there are things about my school that like my schooling that does apply to what I do. And I did learn a lot, but you don't have to it's experience. It's about getting all those shots under your belt. It's about networking with the right people to get, as you keep growing, to get bigger opportunities. But like, you don't have to go to school to do this. I'd actually probably recommend not going to school, honestly, because I feel like unless you want to use it to gain access to internships and shooting availability. So a lot of pro internships with the big leagues you have to be in school in order to do it. They won't give you if you're just like someone that is into photography, you have to be in school to get an internship. So that's just like my advice is if you can swing it financially, do it, but also understand that a lot of people that are into it don't have success with it. And it's just it's a very competitive market, and it's not for everyone. It's grueling. It took me 12 years working in the industry to get to where I am now, and a lot of suffering and working multiple jobs. But my big thing is you don't got to go to school to do it, I
guess. I mean, well, should I change my major now? I changed my major like four or five times now. My family will not be happy with me.
You could, but honestly, you could just do photography in your spare time. And the nice thing about having another major and maybe another line of work is make sure it's something that doesn't interfere with the time that you need to be available to shoot sports, which is mostly evenings and weekends, right? I mean, you're going to be working yourself like a dog, like I did, having a million jobs on top of doing this. But make sure that if you're going to pursue it, understand that a lot of the times, like starting out, you're not going to get paid a lot, if anything. And it's knowing when to accept those kind of positions and know that you're going to be grinding pretty hard starting out. Very few people just jump right into like, a good paid position with it. So, yeah.
Everyone, I hope you listen to this advice, and I hope my mom is listening right now.
Sorry, Mom, you're wrong.
every episode this season is just me coming after my mom for something she said. She's gonna love this. Okay, so before we end today's episode, we are going to jump to Derek's segment about what's going on this week in women's sports betting. Take it away, Derek.
Hello. Thank you for listening to the Women's Sports Matter podcast. I'm Derek Kelly. This week, I want to talk to you about point spreads. Typically, you will see these markets with a line and the corresponding odds. The line is the margin of defeat or victory that the sportsbook expects the underdog and the favorite to lose or win by in a certain sporting event. To make this clear, suppose you see a market with a WNBA team and there's a -2.5, -110 next to it. Well, the first number is the line, and the second number is the odds. And that's a point spread market. Those numbers tell you several things. First off, the negative sign tells you that that team is the favorite to win the game. If that were a positive sign instead, then that team would be the underdog in the game. The 2.5 is the actual margin by which the sportsbook thinks they'll either lose or win. That will always be the same on both sides of the market. When betting a spread, you have two choices. You can take the favorite to cover, which means win by at least the sportsbook margin, or for the underdog to upset the spread, which means they either win the game outright or lose by fewer points than the spread suggests. So in our example, if you thought the favorite would win by at least 3 points, you'd bet on them and give the points to the sportsbook. If you thought the underdog would either win the game by any margin or lose by 2 or fewer points, you'd take the points and bet on the underdog. Then, of course, the -110 is the actual odds on the bet that tell you your payout if you would win. And you might be wondering, what about that 0.5? It's impossible to score a half a point in basketball. That's called a hook. And it's there to make sure that the bet doesn't settle as a push. Instead of betting on 2 points exactly, you're betting on either 2 or 3. And that way, either you or the sportsbook is going to win the bet. Now, softball fans, you might be wondering whether you can bet on the Women's College World Series. Well, it depends on 2 things. Number 1 is where you're betting from. Some jurisdictions, in the U.S. especially, have special rules for betting on college sports. These include whether you can bet on teams attached to the schools within certain states and what kind of bets you can place. Additionally, not all legal Canadian and U.S. sportsbooks are offering action on the event. There are some who do have markets live in some states, though. So the best thing to do is to go ahead and check with your favorite sportsbook if you're interested. By the way, the final games are on Monday, June 6th, June 8th, and Thursday, June 9th, plus Friday, June 10th if it becomes necessary. In other events you can bet on this week, the ShopRite LPGA Classic starts on Thursday, June 10th. Watch for winners futures markets as the event progresses. UFC 275 features 2 women's bouts on its main card this Saturday, June 11th. One of them is a flyweight title bout between Valentina Shevchenko and Taila Santos. The other is a strawweight fight that pits Zhang Weili against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Right now, Shevchenko and Weili are the betting favorites. The NWSL has matches on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday and Sunday this week. Then there are WNBA games every day but Monday and Thursday this week. Check with your favorite sportsbook apps the morning of those contests for the lines. That's all for this week, and I want to remind you that previews of all these events and a lot more information is available at BetHer.com. That's BET-HER.com.
Thank you again, Derek, for telling us more about what's going on this week in the world of women's sports betting. It was very informative. Before we end today's episode, now is your time to do some shout outs. If you want to shout out anyone, this is your little message to them. Be like, hey, this is what's up. Go ahead.
Shout out to my mom and dad always. And shout out to my boss, Barry Gossage, for giving me the opportunity of a lifetime, for believing in me. And shout out to the NBA and WNBA for finally hiring another woman to cover sports. I'm happy to be here, and I wouldn't, be here without support from any of them. So I'm living my best life thanks to these people. And thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And thank you for having me on the podcast.
Oh my God. Thank you for coming on today. Now, where can people follow you? Tell them what the socials are, the website, all that.
So my website is my name, which you're going to need to know how to spell to get any of my stuff. So that's Kate, Kate. Last name is Frese, Frese. So my website's katefrese.com. You can follow me on Twitter at KateFresePhoto. And then Instagram is Kate_Frese. So again, that's Frese for my last name. That's pretty much what I'm on the most. I have a LinkedIn I don't really use. But those are the places that I'm active the most right now.
Everyone, you better spell the name right. I'm not going to help you out if you don't. That's kind of on you for not listening to the end of today's episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, time for what I call my spiel. Everyone loves this. It's what I used to do is I would take a deep breath and I would just go. I would just go for it and be really fast and really bad is what I'm going to say. So I'm going to take my time with this one. If you want to follow me on social media, guess what? You can. I'm on 4 different places now. 3 of them are the same handle. That's Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Women's Sports Matter. And on Twitter, you can follow me at W Sports Matter. There's also a YouTube channel. If you want to watch this really awesome interview, go to YouTube right now and subscribe. The Women's Sports Matter podcast. It's easy. It takes 2 seconds to do it. Well, you do need a Google account. So if you don't have a Google account, make a Google account. And the first channel that you subscribe to is Women's Sports Matter. Because why wouldn't you do that? I have a lot of upcoming stuff happening. So if you want to be the first to know about that, all you got to do is subscribe to the Women's Sports Matter newsletter. And how do you do that? Oh my God, I'll tell you right now. It's in the description. It's in the link tree on my social pages. It's one of the first links in the link tree, actually, because I made it accessible for you. So if you want to hear what's coming up in July, go subscribe to the newsletter. Thank you for doing that while you're listening to me. I really appreciate you subscribing to the newsletter as I'm speaking at this very moment. One of the big things I'm pushing for this season is supporting your local women's sports team. There's a lot of local women's sports teams near me. There's also, I guess, the Phoenix Mercury. If you're in Phoenix, I don't know. I'm sorry. The pop-up is blocking this. The Metropolitan
Ribs.
I guess if you like them. I think I'm more of a Buttes fan. I really haven't picked a team. I don't know which one I should pick, but this is deterring me from finishing my episode. We'll talk about this after. What else is there? Support your local women's sports team, whether it's a USLW league, whether it's the NWSL, the PHF, the WNBA, the UWS, the WPSL, or the other women's hockey league that is so many letters that I don't remember. The PWHPA, is that what it is? Did I get it right? Yep. I got it right. Go support them. Or if you're in Europe, I guess there's those teams too, but I can't list all those damn leagues. Support your local women's sports team. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you. That's going to be it for me today. Kate, thank you again so much for coming on this episode of Women's Sports Matter. Again, my name is Gianna Belcastro, and I'm your host. I'll see you next week when we do another interview. Who is it going to be? I have no idea. I have zero clue because I don't schedule ahead of time. That's going to be it for me this week. That's all, folks. I'll see you next time. Bye.